This time I would like to say a few words about the wonderful novel by Daniel Defoe. I was already talking a little bit about Moll Flanders, but this time I would like to talk about the other novel, which is probably even more famous and definitely more famous, Robinson Crusoe, of course. So I would like to compare here the original story of Robinson Crusoe with all the film adaptations that I encountered and watched. So Daniel Defoe wrote his novel and published it in 1717, and from this moment on, it was a constant object of attention and of different and also a invitation for similar novels, for some satiric attempts and so on. So in 1717, so first and foremost, we have to know to what is in original Robinson Crusoe, the Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. So Robinson Crusoe in the novel, in Defoe's novel, is the son of a German merchant. Yes, German merchant. Maybe you didn't know that. I also was a little bit when I reminded it to myself. I also was a little bit astonished, and that's why this strange family name Crusoe, because his father name was Kreutz something, and it was very hard for the British to pronounce, so he was called Crusoe. His mother was Dedomo. She was née Robinson. So he was called Robinson from the mother's family name and so on. The whole story, although the novel is from 1717, the action is taking place in the mid 17th century, so almost 70 years before, 60 something, 60 odd years before. Okay, so we have a son of German merchant and of English lady. They are living in York, in northern England. So he is dreaming about adventure. He's dreaming about ships and travels. His father is against it. So is his mother, and they constantly wanted to talk him out of it. But as you can presume, without much effect. So he and his friend, who is a son of a merchant, they go on the ship to London to sell something, to sell some goods which are on the ship. The ship is a little bit overloaded, and the ship sinks. This is a wonderful medicine against travel and things like that in the case of his friend. But Robinson himself wants to continue the whole thing. So he joins the crew of another ship because he wanted like to face his family and see, and he would think that he is, what a blamage it would be for him to stand against his family again, and for them to see that his attempts of being a merchant and man of travel failed. Okay, so he continued the path that he chose for himself, and he joins the crew that goes to I don't remember where. So they are attacked by Salé pirates. The Republic of Salé was a short-lived city-state at Salé, modern Morocco, during the 17th century. Located at the mouth of the Bau Regret River, it was founded by Moriscos from the town of Hornachos in western Spain. Moriscos were the descendants of Muslims who were nominally converted to Christianity, but they were subject to mass deportation during the Spanish Inquisition. The Republic's main commercial activities were the Barbary slave trade and piracy during its brief existence in the 17th century. So they were existing as a part of the Morocco, but they were hardly under control of the Sultanate of Morocco, because this, as I know from many historical things, historical books, several, maybe not many, several, that Morocco in 17th and 18th century were very destabilized country without really much of an administration. So they were like a police, like Barbary piracy, pirate police. Okay, so the Sale pirates attacked the ship, took control over it after a short battle, and most of the English prisoners went on land to become slaves for the Moroccans. And this topic is always abandoned, totally cut off from every single film adaptation, because it would remind, oh my god, it would remind that there was something like a slavery by the Moroccans and by the Turks. Yeah, not very politically correct, eh? But also, you know, there are some rights of condensation, which are typical for every film adaptation. But okay, so but plus this is of course the from 70s on, from 1970s on, we have the political correctness. So it's probably additional reason why this moment, this part never appears, is never filmed, never adapted. Okay, so but back to the novel. So Sale Pirates. He, Robinson Crusoe, I mean, is not uh, sent to the interior of Morocco to be sold as slave, but he instead is kept by one of the captains of these Moroccan pirates, and he is forced to take part in of the adventures of this pirate. And these Moroccan pirates are attacked by a Brazilian, that means Portuguese, really Portuguese captain, who is frees all the prisoners, and he's the biggest do-gooder in the novel, and he makes it possible for Robinson Crusoe to go to Brazil, that is a Portuguese colony, to start the plantation. And he's working on this plantation, and they are, I don't remember what they cultivate, probably coffee or something like this, and they have some things and some crops and so on, and they decided that maybe it would be good to start a slave trade, to participate in slave trade. And as Daniel Defoe very correctly, of course, because he was living in those times, correctly observes that participating in slave trade is very lucrative, but it's not so easy. And he says that in mid 17th century, when the action of the novel takes part, it's not as spread as later in Defoe's times. So he and he observed justly so that it required a paper which is called Asiento de Negros, or the Portuguese equivalent. So both the Spanish king and the Portuguese king would be supposed to you would be supposed to have this paper to be able to trade with slaves. So they think, okay, we won't be trading slaves, but we will buy slaves from other Africans. The Africans will sell to us for shiny goodies, shiny little things, their comrades, for us to so we obtain additional workforce to our plantation. So they plantations. So they make these shiny goodies, you know, and put it on the ship, and they go with the ship to Africa. But the ship is shipwrecked, of course, and there is a storm, a shipwreck. Okay, so it all happens very relatively close to the coast of today's Venezuela. That would be Mexico Nuevo colony of part of the Mexico Nuevo colony of, no, that would be part of what was part of colony, some colony. There was a colony, Mexico colony, and then the colony of Nueva Granada or something. Oh, Nueva Granada. Okay, so but of course, totally deserted place, a small island without any connection to the land, of course, which was island. So they are, unlike Alexander Selkirk's story. Alexander Selkirk was a real seaman who was marooned on the island in 1704, I think, and he spent like 4 years on this island. Defoe talked with him while writing this, or talked with people who know him, something of the two, one of the two. So, and he was talking with this Selkirk guy, or with someone who knew Selkirk guy, and Selkirk was marooned. So he was not shipwrecked, he was marooned. That means that he was forced to stay on the island while the rest of the crew vanished. So different story, right? So to some extent, the story of Robinson Crusoe is based on this early 18th century marooned person, Alexander Selkirk, but only to some degree. It is mostly just original story of Defoe. So back to the novel. Robinson Crusoe is the only one who survived the shipwreck. She starts the life, and he learns to hunt. He learns to blah blah blah. Of course, he's thinking for many years. He's not 4 years like Selkirk on the island, but 28, I think, or 25, something like this, years on the island. For many years, he is absolutely convinced that he is the only person of this on this island. Then he discovered that probably there are some cannibals and maybe some wars among the herds, among the herds of cannibals, hordes of cannibals. How it's different groups of cannibals, and because he discovered the skulls, the bones, and the blah blah blah, and he sees sometimes boats from far away and so on. And one day, just after his dream of about rescuing one victim of the cannibals from the cannibals, he really is in that situation. That there is a group of cannibals and two prisoners which are to be eaten, and one of them is killed, the other escapes, and the three of the cannibals follow him, and really then he swims over the river, and the only two follows him. What Robinson is rescuing the guy, and this guy is Friday, because it all happened on Friday. He called him Friday. He taught him many things. He teaches him many things, and they talk. He teaches him about God, and they have very funny conversations about religion, because Robinson Crusoe is getting more and more religious in the course of being on the island, because he thinks that it's providence that rescued him and so on. So he takes it more and more seriously. Has the Bible. He learns to from it, and keeps his speaking abilities because of it. So he teaches this Bible and things like that to Friday. So Friday is really a Protestant. When they encounter white people from the first time for 20 odd years. So when it happens, it's in form of very similar to the cannibal story. Before that, they have a small war against the bad cannibals, and the good cannibals are rescued and so on. But to some extent, one could say that they are killing some of the cannibals that were persecuting Friday's people before, which were also cannibals. But now Friday is civilized, and he is against cannibalism. Okay, so many years after that, so you can see that all the films requires much condensation, of course. So, okay, so they white people come the English, and they are three people who are tied and imprisoned on the beach and guarded by some rascals who were the people who revolted on the ship and deprived the captain of his powers, and then they wanted to kill them probably or maroon them. So Robinson is rescuing those three people. A captain is informing him about the good and bad people of the crew, on whom he could count on in case he would like to try to attempt getting back the power over the crew. So they do precisely that. It's very complicated process. They must to deal with the first group of the rebels, the second group, and so on. Some join them, some must be guarded as enemies, and so on. Okay, so and then he goes back to England. He is planning to go back to the plantation of his plantations of Brazil, which are partly during his 20-odd years presence, because his parents are long dead and they thought that he was lost at sea, so he has no dowry, or how it's called, no, nothing was left for him by the parents. So the only thing he has is the plantation, but the plantation also was a little bit well hit by his absence in to some extent. It was by the neighbors given partly to some philanthropy religious things under the Catholic Church, but most of the plantation is possible to be sold and so on, or to continue the economy on the plantation, continue the working there. Okay, so he planned, and he goes with Friday over Europe from England through France and through Spain, and he plans to go there to Brazil, but then he changed his mind because he has really enough of the sea travels, which is totally understandable. The ocean travels, for first and foremost, which is totally understandable from the Robinson Crusoe's position. So he arranges so that the money from the plantation, which will be sold in Portuguese, in Brazil, it would be given. So he does not want the plantation. He wants just the money from the plantation, and it's organized by the people in Lisbon, in London, blah 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 blah, bank, merchants. He gets the money. He's happy ever after, and Friday is happy too. Okay, we are done with the novel. Okay, so how the adaptations look like, because that's more interesting even. Although the story and the novel is very nice and very good. So okay, so first adaptation is the silent film, British one, silent film from 1927, titled simply Robinson Crusoe. In this version, all is happening as it should. With the they even present this whole thing with going to Africa for the slaves to work on the plantation in Brazil. So what we skip here, we skip family thingies, and we skip Saleh pirates, as all adaptations skip the Moroccan part and the family part. The family part is shown adequately only in one film. So okay, so we have from the moment of going for the slaves to Africa, everything is done exactly as it should, which is not typical, as we will see. Then there is a adaptation, hardly an adaptation, and Spanish rubbish and shit done in 1932, which has nothing really to do. It's just story, Spanish one. but the Spanish will to some extent make it better to some extent later. Then we have the Russian version, the Soviet version from 1947, and it's very surprising for me to say, but the Soviet version is the best version ever. Best version ever. Everything is done exactly as it should be, but I don't see the Moroccan pirates. That's the only thing left, or maybe it's even the Moroccan pirates. We'll see. Moroccan pirates, Moroccan pirates. No, no Moroccan pirates. But we see the quarrels with his family. He wants to go to overseas, and the family is against, and that this is really in the film, which is very, 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 very to be appreciated very much, because it's very well, totally not typical, totally untypical. Okay. So then we have a Spanish, American, British version by Luis Buñuel, who was an international director more than Spanish director, and he made with all the Irish, and then this fashion of having Irish actors to make Robinson Crusoe, who has perfect English and has nothing Celtic in him, in the Defoe's novel. So first Irish are coming with the name of Dan O'Herlihy, which is, as most Irish names, totally not to be pronounced, unpronounceable. But the film is okay. The film by Buñuel from 1954 is okay. Everything is okay. Of course, no Moroccans, no family, but the thing is presented almost as it should be. So it's one of the better versions. I will include the links to all the versions I found. Okay, so okay, so then we have a German version, a mini series from 1964, the which 1964. And what they changed, well, not so much. By the way, from the beginning to this moment, I think Friday was always an Indian. It's Venezuela's island, so it should be Indian, right? Not so. This in 1940. 64 German movie, Friday is the most Indian-like Indian, right? So, and it's all, of course, no family, no Moroccan pirates, just the island shipwreck thing, the survival thing, the survival element is here totally highlighted, and the accentuated, and so on. Blah blah blah. Friends with Friday. Friday is as usual very humble and so on, which is totally like he was in Defoe's novel, and so more or less it's like it should be according to the novel. Okay. 1972 version, Russian one, another Russian one. It's again, it's less accurate than the previous Russian version, but it's still a good, it's still a well-made adaptation. Then we comes to the worst Robinson ever, which is called very freely Man Friday, 1975, with Peter O'Toole, who was playing in all sorts of idiotic massacres, not adaptations, but massacres of classic novels. And also, who was part Peter O'Toole was also crucial in one of the most idiotic versions of Casanova. So he is generally an idiot playing in idiotic films, and he also was playing in the idiotic version of Caligula story. So he is basically a very talented idiot who plays in idiotic movies, who are a travesty of the real stories and real novels. So Man Friday, first time Friday is really a Negro, and first time he's a real African, and he is very well, the balance between Peter O'Toole and between Robinson and the and Friday is changed. Peter O'Toole is very European proud, and he's very civilization is us white people, and the Friday is very much revolting against it, laughing about it, and very very full of himself, very very much questioning the Robinsons being master, playing the master role. Yeah, so that was supposed to be fun, and that comedic element is turned into something stable, into something which will happen in some of the next adaptations or massacrations. Okay, so we have then not so bad adaptation from 1997 with Pierce Brosnan and another Irishman playing the English sailor. But okay, so Pierce Brosnan is the whole history is put decidedly into the 18th century. So that's the difference. It's not a 17th century story. It's the Defoe's Times story. Yeah. So and all starts with the thing with, of course, the woman, which is played by the wonderful Polly Walker, and there is a duel, and Pierce Brosnan, the Robinson Crusoe played by Brosnan, kills the man, and he has to flee. He goes on the ship. He goes blah 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 on the, okay, so he goes to blah 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 shipwreck jungle. Meets Friday. He is master, decidedly the master, and very mastery indeed in this 1997 version. And Friday is very well subjected, but they are basically friendly, but longer than in the novel is Robinson suspicious of the real motives of Friday. So he is taking very many precautions, which are just signaled in the novel. Now we see that he's constantly sleeping with the gun. He's not trusting not trusting Friday. Friday is again black. Although, as I mentioned, this is supposed to be a Venezuelan, geographically, Indian. So again, we have African-looking Friday, but he is he's not questioning the Robinson being the master. So and we have very many talkings, very many conversations on religion, which is well, it is in the novel of Defoe, but here is even more stress put on this. And then unlike the novel, Robinson is not winning over the bad cannibals, but he is imprisoned by them, and he is going to be eaten. But he is survived. He is saved by the white sailors, who are by this occasion also killing the good cannibals, the Fridays people, right? So, and he said that it's a paradox that, and also they killed Friday by accident, and so he is complaining about his fate, that his best friend who helped him to survive on the island was killed by the people who saved him. So it's very painful, but fortunately he goes to England, and he goes to this Polly Walker lady, which is not in the novel of Defoe, because in novel of Defoe there are no ladies except for the mother of Robinson, no ladies whatsoever. So the love story is having this final moment. Okay, so except except for the idiotic duel and the love story at the beginning and the end, and the manner of how Robinson is saved, which is different from the one that we read about in the novel. The middle part, the being on the island, the interactions with Friday, is very much like Defoe would like. So it's a so-so adaptation. The biggest problem with Robinson Crusoe, the French TV series, 2003. Man struggles to survive after being shipwrecked on a desert island. No, he is not shipwrecked. Someone was citing the real Defoe's plot and put it here. But in the French, in this French TV series, there's nothing of the sort. He is marooned, so he's like Selkirk, not like Robinson Crusoe. He's marooned like Selkirk. He is forced. He's forced to go on the island. He's abandoned on the island. Only some sort of something is, and a pistol is left for him to survive, but they don't really want him to survive, and he wants to stay. And the cause of this being marooned is that because he was against a slave trade, and it's all happening deep into the 18th century, although the clothes in the films are from early 18th century, so they didn't really decide if it's at Defoe's time or maybe it's 50 years after Defoe's time, so they didn't have a clue about the nuances of clothing, but that's not as important as the massacre they did with the plot. So he's marooned, not shipwrecked, but marooned. He's going there. He meets Friday, vendredi. The French have justly translated it, not like we Poles do, which is something to do with the element of the food. In Polish version, so he's vendredi, as it should be, because Friday in French is vendredi. So vendredi is at the beginning very slavish, but then he keeps more and more revolting against this master, being a master, performed by Robinson Crusoe. And he is questioning even the name Vendredi. He says that his name is Ugawa or something like this, and he is very, very much questioning everything what the Robinson is saying. And Robinson he's less and less inclined to teach him Bible and the Euro stuff, but he gets more tolerance, kumbaya, and at the end they go back to Europe, and he has from I don't remember where he gets a white lady. The Friday gets white lady or something, and they go back to Ugawa is black again. They go back to South Africa, but South Africa has nothing to do with Defoe's novel. So even they got even places wrong, because it was Brazil, and the Venezuelan island, right? So never mind. So they in the South Africa among those European plantations, they are not really understood with all those progressive ideas. So they go to Europe to fight the very idea of slavery. Yes, so it's very much légalité, fraternité, stupidité. So, but it has. If they wanted to make film like that, they could have. Ah, no, I totally forgot the Robinson Crusoe, the French Friday is not African. He is Indian, which doesn't even make any so much sense because yes, so he's Indian in Africa, and still he's confronted with some sort of racism. But the plantations in Africa and the Indian would be treated like a white man, really, from maybe a bit darker complexion. So it doesn't even make sense. It's just political correctness in spite of everything. So this the by far the worst version is the one with Robinson Crusoe, played by Pierre Richard. Not the Americans this time, like with Moll Flanders versions, but the French are playing the most stupid and the most politically correct stupid at the end of the day. Okay, so that would be it.